Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on your Wednesday morning Rise and Shine. Natural health we're doing this morning here, and our topic is tobacco and insidious poison. Tobacco and insidious poison. We'll be talking about all what's going on in the news, some articles to share with you, and some quotations talking about tobacco and the poison that it is to our society and the continued troubles that we still have with tobacco. So, some information, some new development that is ongoing that we'd like to share with you. And this is what we're looking at here this morning. So, welcome again to our live talk program as we do our natural health from Wednesday to Wednesday. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee again for the blessings of your word, for the blessings, dear Lord, of knowing thee, the only true God. Pray that you may be with us and bless us as we look at these things, and may we always stay on the straight and narrow and avoid these deadly traps, dear Lord, that are set to destroy both mind and body. May you be with us, dear Father, as we look into these things for Christ's sake. Amen. So here again, we're looking at this on our natural health this morning, tobacco and insidious poison. So we're looking at the new development with tobacco as our main focus. But before we get there this morning, I want to share with you just a short thing on the flu epidemic, or the flu, not epidemic, but the flu activity that's going on right now across the country. And if you've been following this, you probably noted that the flu season is as intensified. And so this is the article I'm going to share from NBC News, and it is written by Maggie Fox, and it is Flu Season Intensifies, 30 children have died. So 30 children have died in the flu intensified flu season that is happening right now. Flu activity increased sharply across the U.S. last week, and the virus is still widespread in all states except Hawaii. Federal health officials said Friday. At least 4 different strains of influenza are making people sick, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said. Flu vaccines are designed to protect against 3 or 4 of the strains, but work poorly against the most common strain circulating, called H3N2. Another 10 children were reported to have died from flu, the CDC said. Although not all the deaths occurred last week, it can take weeks for states to gather the information and send it to CDC. So far, this flu season, 30 children have died from influenza. Last season, 110 died from flu in 2000 in the U.S. Every year, influenza kills between 12,000 to 49,000 people and can send as many as 700,000 people to the hospital, the CDC says. It affects so many people that adult cases and deaths can only be estimated. The CDC says that this is the worst flu season since the 2014-2015 season. Flu can vary a lot from year to year, and this year it spreading activity in all states at the same time. In other years, it has usually moved in irregular waves, peaking in different parts of the country at different times. We're seeing the flu throughout the entire country, says Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott, director for the Rhode Island Department of Health and president-elect of the Association of States and Territories health officials. By every measure, whether it's by outpatient visit, hospitalization, laboratory testing, this has been a very early season and a more severe one than recent influenza seasons, agreed Dr. Karen Smith, director of the California Department of Health. And so just pause there a little bit. So if you've been following this, you know that normally the flu season hit its peak in February, and so normally that's the big month, and for the most part February is normally probably our coldest and most snowstorm month of the year. So normally that's what it is, but this year it started sometime, I think, at the beginning of December, and it's been going strong ever since. And so far, there's been quite a lot of problems, even in school districts across the nation shutting down. So this is one of the things that are happening here because of the flu season. So sharing this with you for public service announcement that you keep taking care of yourself, especially as we about to enter in or go into the heavier part of the flu season from now going forward in the upcoming weeks. So anyhow, continue reading here. By measure, so some hospitals are overwhelmed, says Dr. Laurie Wilk, Colorado Chief Medical Officer. We have well over 2,000 influenza-associated hospitalization. That's double our average number of cases we usually see this time of year. Walk told reporters in a briefing organized by the department, the Association of State and Territory Health Officials. So double the amount of hospitalization. Right? So worried flu patients are flooding emergency rooms, says and Alexander Scott said her state health department was trying to steer those who are not suffering emergencies away from emergency department. Only the urgently sick or injured should be in the ER, she said. Others should be calling their own primary care doctors or visiting urgent care clinics. It is still not too late to get a flu shot, all the officials said. Pharmacies, drugstores reported they still have plenty of supply, and the CDC predicts flu season will last several more weeks at the least. It may be several months before this flu season ends, Walk says. So very important to keep that in mind, because normally you at this point we will have probably about 6 weeks more of flu season. They're saying that it could go on probably into March, April, which is quite interesting. So it starts early, and they're saying it could go on longer. So what does that mean for you? That means for you and for your loved ones, you need to be on your guard, especially the next 6 weeks or so when it comes on to getting proper rest. So you're rested. If you're rested, your body's not under the pressure that it normally will be when you're not properly rested. Make sure that you're getting enough fluids in, especially fluids that are normally associated with anything citrus. Get as much of that type of fluid in your system so that you're in a position where your body is able to take on the disease in a better way. Now, one of the articles I was reading this morning here, and I was looking at, and just would be too much material to cover, is this idea here that they were asking the question, why is it that especially all the young people will die from the virus, and also why is it that the virus can kill people so quickly? Because they were noted that in the 1918, when they had the swine flu outbreak, that many people had died within hours or days of catching the virus. So the virus did not give the body much time. And one of the main things they were talking about was that the body would not be familiar with, say, the H1N1, which was the swine flu. And so the immune system would overreact. And in the immune system overreacting to the virus, it would normally cause a cytokine war, and basically the person would die from an overreaction of the immune system. So it's important to note that some of these deaths are not happening, days or weeks after the person gets it, because that's not how a flu works. It normally works within a few days to 7 days on a normal basis. So it's important to note that your action should be, especially in the next, when I say stay on your guard, in the next few weeks, that your actions should be within hours. If you feel like you're coming down with a sore throat, if you're coming down with any type of illness, if you're observing any illness in your children, your action should be immediately. you should start acting immediately. Don't wait until it takes a full grip of you. You say, okay, I'm sick. If you start feeling something wrong in your throat, or you start feeling like you're having the fevers, you're having the shivers, whether or not you know where you got it from, don't worry about that. Just start to act to relieve the body so the body don't have to overreact. Another reason I believe also is because the if the system is not strong or you're weakened, as I say, because you're probably not properly hydrated, you're probably not getting enough sleep, your body is beaten up because of eating out of junk food, then you're not able to have a proper response. So this is the time of the year where you cut back on sugary foods, where you cut back on any type of foods that's going to clog your system, and or cut it out altogether. And you stay on your citrus, you stay on the type of herbs like echinacea, golden seal, to basically get your system clean out your mucous membranes, get you in your immune system ready to act. And then other things is important is to stay fluid. In other words, stay unconstipated. Don't clog yourself up with any foods that are foods like gluten. Too much gluten in your system will clog you up. Any other food that is clogging, if you are a person that partake of any type of milk dairy product, just basically back off or eliminate them for now. Keep your system clogged up. So what do you normally do? What I always suggest to do with the moment you feel like you're coming out with something is start hydrating. Take something to clear your colon immediately. That's always, to me, the number one. You hydrate and clear your colon at the same time. Somebody say, why would you want to clear a colon? Because what you need to do is get your system flowing. You don't want anything clogged up in your system, because the system is going to start fighting, and as it fights, it's going to have a way to dump. And sometimes your body is being weakened by what you have in the digestive tract. So it could be something you eat, something sweet, something clogging. You want to just free the system so the system can start moving. You want to get some herbs, any type of herb that will help with sweating, like yarrow, Yarrow. Anything that will help your system sweat, so you can perspire. Any type of tea that is good to calm your nerves or calm you down or build your immune system. You want to drink any type of tea. You want to get things like elderberry, some type of syrup, some cough syrup, something to start to use to help your body. So what it is you want to do, you don't want your immune system to do all the fighting. You want to help your body and help your immune system, so your immune system don't have an all-out war when it's not necessary, when you can help your body. So those are some of the quick things. I'll just repeat them again for you, that I think is you need to hear this over and over again and try this so much that when you're in an emergency and a situation where you're faced with some type of flu that is very dangerous, that's sending people to the hospital, that you don't think about what to do. You just do it, because you can't think, because sometimes there's not a lot of time to think about it, because the thing could get you real ill real fast. So again, what you need to do is you're going to think about, I need to unclog my system, need to flush. The place you need to flush is your colon. First order of business to me always. And if, as I say, I want to spend a whole program trying to explain why I've come to this conclusion, but this is just my opinion, what I do. And I'm advising you, practice it, try it. First order of business, flush your system, get some colon tonic, something inside your system to evacuate, so your system is not clogged up with all kind of old food in it. Then you want to hydrate. Then you want to hydrate especially with anything citrus, anything that is good for the immune system. You go to the health food store, ask them, do they have elderberry? Do they have anything that's good for the digestive tract? Aloe vera, anything that's good for the digestive tract, lemon juice, orange juice. You want to get those things in your system. You want to get some herbs that's good for the colon. Normally, the main two herbs for colon flu would be echinacea, golden seal. You want to get that. You'll get some teas. Start drinking some teas. You want to get a cough syrup for your throat to make sure you don't develop a sore throat, because that normally is a secondary co-infection. That was the other thing that they said that normally cause people to die. They die from co-infections, not from the main flu, because now the body has too much things it's fighting and it gets overwhelmed. So you want to not make a sore throat develop. If you feel a little uneasy feeling in your throat, you want to get some, something, some cough syrup or something, and start taking that to try to stop that. You want to get some lozenges, start sucking on some lozenges to heal your throat, because you don't want to develop a sore throat. And then if you can get home, then you get home, or if you're already home, you want to start taking some hot and cold showers, as hot as you can take it without burning yourself. And then, as just before you finish, you rinse off about 30 seconds with as cold as you can take it, shock the system, put on a robe and go to bed and start getting some sleep so your body fight. And you're doing this so that you don't have to be busy doing anything. I've seen people sick with flu and they're eating a piece of steak. And I'm like, why are you eating a steak? You can't eat a steak while you have flu. You need to be drinking some soup, some vegetable soup, something like that, light food as possible. Anything that is light, that's going to put minerals in your system or anything like that, but nothing heavy. You want to cut back off all heavy food and go to light raw foods. Anything that's warm, anything that is like fruits, berries, anything that's going to put vitamin C in your system. That's what you want to do. Minerals, vitamin C. You fill your system with that so that you don't have to be digesting much starch and much protein, and it's definitely not much oils. So you put yourself on a light fast. And then you try to constantly fluid up, constantly take your remedies, and constantly sleep. If you do this, what it is, you relieve the body so the body doesn't have to overreact. And now the immune system can focus on fighting the flu that you're developing or having or caught, not fighting your food or your bad habits. And you give the body rest. You take your rest. Don't try to press yourself to go to work or to go to school. You just pull back and give yourself the space to work. But some people want to keep going, and they think what they're going to do is just go to the doctor, get a shot, get some medication, and keep going with the process of life. And what happened, the disease will stop them in their track. So don't make the disease stop you. The moment you feel like you're coming out with something, take a half a day from work, take a half a day from school, fight that disease in the first 24 to 48 hours, and you'll have a better experience than most people who are there and they're trying to continue with life as if they don't understand the season. So, in life, there's the time and a place for everything. To everything, there's a season. So this is the season. This is the season I always tell people, work with nature. You still have to work and do your thing, but pull back a little bit. Don't press yourself a little bit so hard. Probably this evening when you come home, you go ahead and get some exercise. Go ahead and sweat a little bit. You're just boosting your immune system. Don't over exercise. Just exercise in moderation, and this will boost your immune system. If you listen to me and it's early, your day doesn't start until probably 9 or probably after 8. Before you do whatever, you just go ahead and get some exercise. Start your day right. Boost your fluid intake. This is the time of the year where it's just best to take care of yourself a little extra, because it's just part of the process. Normally people enjoy themselves. They eat a lot of, junk. In November, December, they drink a lot of alcohol. They abuse their bodies. In November, December, it gets cold. The body's under a lot of pressure because the body has to make up that temperature or deal with the onslaught of the cold. We're in a season now where it gets very cold, very hot, very cold, very hot. I should say very cold, is warm for the season. And that puts the body at risk. So you want to be able to know that it's just the extra added pressure of the coldness. Go right in ahead and, readjust to that and boost your system. And don't wait until you get the cold. Just start doing some of what I'm saying. Just, get your diet right, start exercise. This is the best time of the year to do your exercise program, to start eating healthier, keeping your system hydrated. Make sure you have some of your natural remedies available. And the most can happen is if you spend $50, $60 or $100, whatever it is, on some natural remedies like elderberry syrup, some elderberry syrup, some golden seal and echinacea, some immune formula, something for your colon. You spend that amount of money, you have these things ready. And say you didn't catch the flu, You start exercising, you keep yourself very hydrated, you rest properly, and say you make it to March and you didn't get no flu, and you're healthy through March. It was still money well spent. It's worth the insurance, and at least you're gonna come through the winter looking nice. You don't have to start preparing for summer by exercising in the spring. You already got your exercise program on the way. You start looking fabulous for the springtime. So that's what you want to do, and just keep that in mind. So again, this is something that's happening. Don't believe that you're totally susceptible to it, or you're not susceptible to it. Just deal with it, and God will bless your effort. This is how I put it. So anyhow, just some public service announcement here, just kind of keeping you encouraged that I want you to take care of yourself. I just love it when I know those people that I worship with, those people that listen to me here, that they can go through a flu season and not get sick. I feel like I've done that part of my duty. So here I'll go to this article here again from NBCnews.com, written again by Maggie Fox. This is my main focus for the rest of the time. Here I'm going to talk about this article, or share this article and talk a little bit about it. It's entitled cigarette company Philip Morris tries to sell idea of safer tobacco. So safer tobacco is the idea we want to sell. And we keep in mind that, over the years I've heard people argue for a lot of stuff. And this is something that is going to be a consistent argument, because there's so much need for people to feel better. Let's put it that way. There's other things I could say. So here, Philip Morris comes up with not a new idea, because the idea has been around from the late 80s, but it's an idea that they're trying to get legalized in the United States. It's legal in other countries. And it just tells you that this whole idea of drugs and alcohol for the righteous has to be beyond legality, because we don't know how the FDA is going to vote on this idea of safer tobacco. But whether or not they make it legal, it's important for you to note that legality doesn't mean that it's okay for me and you. It might be legal, as Paul says. All things are, all things may be legal, but they're not expedient. And that means, I am legal and you're legal to drink, but we choose not to. And so it is with vape and IQOS is what I'm going to cover here, or cigarette or anything, or tobacco, marijuana products. It might be legal, but doesn't mean it's expedient or it's something that I should be doing. So we're going to go to the article here. When Philip Morris International took out an ad campaign in Britain claiming it wanted to give up smoking, American Lung Association CEO Harold Weimer had a one-liner zinger in return: "Stop selling cigarette today." So it wanted to give it up, but he's saying, hey, look, why don't you just stop doing it altogether today and stop telling us what you want to do in the future? Now the tobacco company is asking U.S. Food and Drug Administration to endorse what it claims is a safer tobacco product, heated tobacco. The FDA Advisory Committee meeting will be held today. The same day that the Lung Association released its annual report on tobacco use in the United States, a report that finds too many people still smoke. The report calls the FDA to more strongly regulated tobacco companies and to more publicly question their claim. Overall, it finds 16.4% of adults, or about 39 million people, American, so it's American people, this is right there, smoked cigarette in 2016, but that percentage rises to 28.6% of people in Native Americans and Alaskan Natives. So somehow I always find this information fascinating and kind of discouraging or disturbing. I should say that here now 28.6% of people who are Native American or Native Americans smoke, and Alaskan Natives. So almost, almost not double, but close to it. So very high amongst Native American. And here's some other troubling information. Americans who make less than $20,000 a year, which is 26% of Americans, or people who make less than $20,000 a year, 26% of them smoke. So very high amongst poor people. Lesbian, gay, bisexual Americans, 23% of them smoke, and have some of the highest smoking rates, and as a result are at the greatest risk for tobacco caused death and disease. Report says more than a third of adults who live in public housing smoke. So here, that's the number on smoking, and that's some fascinating numbers there. Just to keep in mind for future, and just for overall information. So when we talk about in general, in the population, 16% of the population smoke overall, which is still a high number, 39 million people. But, and we're talking about adults here, but yet you find here that Native Americans and Alaskan have this massive number, of 28.6. There's the highest of any group. But not far behind them are people who are poor. And then close behind that is 23, which that was 26.7%. Then 23% of people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual smoke. And then also here 1/3, which is again a massive number, 37%, of adults who live in public housing smoke. So, which would kind of correlate all the information. Poor, so even if they're working but making 20,000, more likely smoke. Gay, lesbian, bisexual smoke. People who live in public housing, high percentage smoke. So it's almost like if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, live in public housing, or make 20% on $20,000 or less, you're probably 50% likely to smoke. You know, it's like, it always reminds me of that text that have baffled many people. It's in the book of Proverbs. It says, let a poor person like drink and forget his sorrow. People are like, why would he say that? Is he saying it by observation, or is he encouraging the poor person to smoke or to drink? But when you read the text, it's almost like he's making an observation. That is he saying they do it, or I want them to do it? I don't believe he's saying he wants them to do it. I think he's just simply saying, when you go among poor people, the type of vices that they do just make them poorer. It's like it's destructive. This is a destructive lifestyle. The poorer you are, the more suffering and more marginalized and more beaten down you are. Is the more you do things that marginalize you and beat you down more. It's very fascinating. That's just a side note. So I'll get back to what I'm talking about. But I wanted to share that because every time I see information like that, I was like, man, you down, and then you do things to make you even more down. You know? So it's just fascinating. Now, tobacco use is the number one cause of both heart disease and cancer. So this is very important for you always to know that most people are dying of cancer or heart diseases because they smoke. And I've done this in the past where they have done research showing that many other diseases are exacerbated when a person smokes. So the real dangers of smoking is not fully understood. Higher tobacco tax and full funding of stop smoking efforts both work well to discourage smoking and help people quit, but too few states are doing either. The report finds the average state cigarette tax is $1.72. Connecticut and New York have the highest cigarette tax at $4.35 a pack, while Missouri tax each pack just 17 cents. So you can see now, even by state, the poorer states, I don't know if it's across the board, but just even by this snippet of information, has less tax. The richer state has higher tax, but the poorer areas has more smoking, more problems from smoking. 50 states take in $27 billion, $27.5 billion in tobacco tax and restitution from the big tobacco companies, but they spread just 3% of that on tobacco prevention, the report's find. Now keep that in mind. 50 states take in taxes at $27.5 billion. Now, at the end of the article, I'm just jump down there for you because I want to share with you this little snippet of information just to compare. Remember, only 20 something thousand dollars worth of taxes, $1 billion worth of taxes that comes in. But notice here, and at the end of the article, they say the Center for Disease and Control and Prevention say cigarette kills 480,000 Americans a year, and tobacco use costs $170 billion in direct medical bills or costs, and $156 billion in lost productivity. So you look at that numbers, $170 billion, $170 billion in direct medical bills. So that's what it's costing everybody. We all paying for the results of the medical care of people who smoke. 170 billion plus loss of productivity, because again, people don't normally just get sick and die. They go through years of sickness because of the damage done to their bodies because of smoking cigarette. And then after all that damage that has been done to their bodies, they lost productivity. They cause the taxpayer, the society, their families, all that loss of productivity at the rate of $156 billion. So combined, we're somewhere at 300 and something billion dollars loss. But yet, with direct tax, we only collect, even a tax in the cigarettes, from 17 cents to $4.35 a pack, we collect about $27 billion. So that's important to remember. It's a drop in the bucket for what the person who say it's my freedom. I'm free to do what I want to do with my body and with my mouth. Sure. But what they even paying back into the system for what they're pulling out of the system and costing other taxpayers, it's really peanuts in comparison to what they're costing. And then forget about the emotional and spiritual costs that they're adding on. But think about this also. It's $27 billion. And yet the people who are smoking the most are people who are normally poor. Because if you look at it, the high rates of smokers are normally people who are making less than $20,000, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or living in public housing. So the person is living in public housing, 1/3. So high rates of smoking in public housing, but yet you find that limited contribution to the economy of the society. And then you know that says a percentage of the people are going to die from their smoking are not themselves only, but their children and family members. So you can't, the cost of smoking is so terrible that it is unreal. And it's not just we're talking about something here that is one of the killers in America. We're talking about the number one killer for both heart disease and cancer. And yet you find people say, well, it's my freedom. It's their freedom, but it's important for you and I to talk about the cost, financial and pain costs of that freedom or that exercise of freedom. So here you see $27 billion. But the cost is just astronomical. One step, continue with the article here, one important step to will make it harder to smoke in public housing. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has taken the important step of proceeding with its rule requiring all federally owned public housing to implement smoke-free policies by July 31st, 2018, the report read. The rule will protect nearly 716,000 children and more than 320,000 senior citizens from secondhand smoke exposure in their own homes, as well as prompt many of the estimated 300,000 smokers living in public housing to make a quit attempt. So they have to make a quit attempt. So it's like, say, if you're going to be here in public housing, you have to at least sign up to try to quit. Make a concerted effort. This in itself is worth discussion, and you know, for those of you who text me, go ahead and text me later on and tell me what you think about that. You're in public housing. Is it the government right or the taxpayer right? Because the government is representing you and I, we all. And is it right for the government to say, hey, look, if you're on public housing, that 30% of you, we need all of you to try to quit at least, and then we need for you to not smoke in our buildings because we need to make our buildings smoke free, so you don't be killing off granny and killing off little children around you. What do you think about it? Is that because people say we're in a free country, you're free to do what you want to do? Is that taking away somebody's right? And is that person should have their rights infringed upon because they're in public housing? I thought this is an interesting in itself, a side note, worthy of discussion. Continue reading. And while a lung association would like to see harm-free products on the market, it does not see either an e-cigarette or heated tobacco product as filling that role. Other medical groups also question whether burnt cigarettes are less harmful. The evidence is a little sketchy, says Aram Batnager, director of the Diabetes and Obesity Center at the University of Louisville and a spokesman for the American Heart Association. We are very cautious about supporting things that might, in the long run, turn out not to be helpful. Are heat sticks safer? All right, so this is what we're looking at. So basically, it's going to explain a little bit, but I want to tell you what we're talking about here. There's a new product that's really been around for probably 2 decades now, and the Philip Morris, primarily the manufacturer Philip Morris that makes tobacco, is trying to push for the FDA to approve this product called IQOS. IQOS basically is this product where it's a heated cigarette. So it's not a vape cigarette and it's not regular cigarette. It's some type of specially formulated cigarette that you put into this machine that heats it up, and then you smoke the tobacco, and it still give you the heat, but it doesn't give you, they say it's not as damaging as regular smoking, lighting a cigarette and smoking the weed or the plant. So the article is going to explain that. So this is a product that is sold in other countries, and just want to give you a little heads up before I start reading so you don't miss what's going on. So the IQOS, or IQOS, capital IQOS, but many people refer to it as IQOS or IQOS, is a product that they're trying to get approved. It's sold other places, but it's not. They claim it's a step between regular cigarette and vape, because vape doesn't give you the same head feel or throat feel where you get that hit with that heat in the back of your throat. So this is this new product that they're trying to get on the market, I guess, to fill that gap between vape and cigarette. So continue reading. The products being considered Wednesday and Thursday, the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, is not a cigarette, and it's not a traditional combustible cigarette either. It's not an e-cigarette nor a combustible cigarette. The Marlboro branded product called IQOS instead consists of a $79 heater that users can plug with heat sticks. The heat stick contains a tobacco plug consisting of crumpled cast tobacco sheet made from ground tobacco powder, the FDA says in a statement released ahead of the meeting. It is designed to function with the IQOS holder to produce an aerosol when the plug is heated. It is a filter non-combusted cigarette. So it's not a cigarette, it's just a heater. So basically you take a cigarette looking thing, it looks like a cigarette, and you put it in a cartridge, that's the way, a cylindrical cartridge, and you push it into the cartridge. It heats up this reformulated cigarette sheet, but it's really a cigarette looking thing, and as it heats it up, you inhale the heated vape. So it's like you're still smoking a cigarette, but it's just not as, you're not combusting the cigarette. So they're claiming, at least Philip Morris is claiming, it gives less of the stuff that's going to cause you to have cancer, but it will give you the hit of the nicotine. And we continue with the article. Philip Morris says it has already sold the product in 3.7 million people in countries including Canada, Colombia, France, Britain, Spain. The FDA advisors are asked to decide whether Philip Morris should be able to sell the product in the US, with the claim that the product is less harmful than cigarette. They'll be asked if the studies presented by Philip Morris hold up, and they'll be asked if smokers will really switch to the product if it is offered. This is something that really requires careful FDA review, the Lung Association Eric Sward said. It is clear that Philip Morris cannot be trusted with the data that it submit to FDA. They have clearly left out some key parts of other analysis. FDA needs to make sure that it is appropriate for the protection of the public health. Philip Morris is one of the companies ordered to run a year's worth of advertisement admitting to have lied for years about the dangers of cigarette and admitted to deliberately making them more addictive. The FDA points out some weaknesses in Philip Morris' argument in its own briefing document given to the committee. First, the studies were not designed to be representative of all smokers in the US. For example, light example would be a person that smoked 10 cigarettes per day, or non-daily smokers were not recruited into the study, the FDA says. Sward said that the tobacco company's data only compares heavy smokers to people using the new product, which may not represent most of the US smoking market. And the FDA noted the health benefit of reducing cigarette consumption instead of quitting completely is unclear. The public health researchers Noel Brewer of the University of North Carolina led a team that also questioned the application. Philip Morris's claim is misleading, he said. For an exposure modification order, an applicant must demonstrate that consumers will not be misled into believing the product is less harmful than another product. The study in the application by Philip Morris instead showed that consumers were misled into believing IQOS is less harmful than cigarette. Misleading 26% of the 36 million smokers in the US means misleading millions of people. These messages could also mislead millions of susceptible non-smokers, including adolescents. Clearly, Philip Morris has not met the requirement of an exposure modification order. So-called consumer freedom groups urge the FDA to approve the application. For the many smokers who want to quit using cigarette, there is now genuine hope that this goal can be achieved. This is written by the right-leaning Heritage Foundation, said in a statement supporting the application. And I'll pause here again. If you've been noticing and if you've been following some of this in the news, why this is important for you and I also is the fact that a lot of the money from the marijuana investors, let's call it that, have been flowing to right-leaning organizations and politicians. So somehow they're more going after the people who believe in like libertarians or people who are Republicans or right-leaning people. So notice here the Heritage Foundation now is supporting Philip Morris, which kind of seems strange. You would think they're conservative, but I remember somebody told me one time that they're conservative in politics but not in lifestyle practice. This was a person saying this to me of themselves, and I thought that was very strange. The person is conservative really in politics but not lifestyle practice. I'd say that's strange, because you find some liberals are conservative in lifestyle practice but liberal in politics, which seems strange also. Anyhow, it's a side note. So if you think about this, there are a lot of money, and if you can just go online and type in marijuana lobby and right-leaning politician and stuff like that, you find that they're literally trying to put, I don't know if they're forcing the money into their hands or they want the money, but I think this is kind of interesting development right now in America. Anyhow, as you know, whatever Philip Morris and the various different tobacco producing companies did, basically the marijuana lobby and the marijuana promoters are running the same campaigns. So they're basically using the same concepts where they're using the same marketing idea. Marijuana is a safer product. Notice here the IQOS, they're selling this as a safer alternative to cigarette. And so the FDA is saying, can you really market it like that because it's really safer? So just keep that in mind. And if you look at what they're doing with marijuana, the same thing they're saying, well, look, it doesn't cause lung cancer or heart problem. That's what they say. Well, you light up anything and inhale it, you will damage yourself and cause cancer because it's an oxidant you're inhaling in your lungs. It would just cause different type of problem. We'll deal with that in a second. So this is what they're promoting. They're promoting this new thing, and it's capital IQOS, IQOS. They're promoting this thing, and they want to have it approved by the FDA as a healthier version to cigarette. And this is going to be taking place today and tomorrow. Continue reading. By stepping out of the way, the FDA can fulfill its obligation. This is a statement still from the Heritage Foundation, this leaning organization. By stepping out of the way, the FDA can fulfill its obligation to support tobacco and tobacco alternative technology innovations, thereby allowing the market to do what decades of public health campaigns have failed to accomplish: provide smokers with smokers with satisfying alternatives to fully quit tobacco or practically eliminate tobacco-related harms. Michelle Minton of the Competitive Enterprise Institute said in her group statement. So this was another group here. So Congress gave the FDA the authority to regulate tobacco products in 2009. Although the FDA may not ban them, health groups have been clamoring for the FDA to crack down more on tobacco companies. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention say cigarettes kill 480,000 Americans a year, and tobacco use costs $170 billion in direct medical costs and $156 billion in lost productivity. That's the end of that article. So here is the information on tobacco. Now, this is important. And as you know, my topic for this morning here is tobacco and insidious poison. So if you look at this information, as I'm watching my time here, if you look at this information and you see here, notice these various different organizations is using this concept that let the free market fix the problem. Because the free market, as this lady here said, what's her name? Michelle Minton. She said basically, if you do innovation, a lot more products in the market that are more options, and if it's just slightly healthier or greatly well healthy, what it is, you'll just get a person to move away from smoking cigarette. This is what we need, and that's a possibility. That's having steps can be a very good thing. I was actually watching a video where a young man or gentleman, he had moved from cigarette to this IQOS product, and then he went from IQOS to now vape, and he's still on vape. He's not come off vape, so he'd used the vaporizer. But he says the vape was difficult to use. The IQOS filled that gap. So this is the way they're promoting it. That you can still get the heat, you can still get the throat hit, where the smoke hit you in the back of your throat. But you don't have to go from smoking straight to vape, because vape don't give you that experience, and you can step down. It's a step down process, and that's how it's being promoted. I'm not for this idea. I don't believe any right-leaning, conservative-leaning people should be promoting. Say, hey, let the market rule. This is a dangerous product that should not be used. A little bit more on the heated product, right? So the heat not burn tobacco. So this is what it's called, basically heat not burn technology. Product heats tobacco, and they sell even with the capital HEATS. Tobacco to lower temperature than when a conventional cigarette is burned. The resulting smoke contains nicotine and other chemicals. These products may match some of the behavioral aspect of smoking. There is no reliable evidence that these products are any less harmful than other cigarettes. Some tobacco companies claim they are less harmful, but this has not been verified. Heat not burned products first came on the market in 1988. However, 1988, however, they were not a commercial success. The ubiquitousness of electronic cigarette and growing dissatisfaction that e-cigarette do not provide the throat hit that smokers are used to may present an opportunity for heat not burn tobacco products. These products are currently being introduced by large tobacco companies. And as I mentioned, Philip Morris is the primary lead on this. So heat not burn tobacco is this thing, and IQOS is, I guess, Philip Morris's brand of tobacco. And so this is what is being promoted. Now, as I stated with marijuana and also with tobacco, is this idea here that the nicotine is one of the major problems with it. You see, what it is with the vape, they basically say, well, use this vape, you avoid the tar, but the whole idea here, the nicotine is part of the problem. And many people have missed that. And the same thing with marijuana, the problem also is with the THC. And so the chemical that gives the high. And so what the problem is that somebody said, well, all the only problem is smoking it, if you light it up and burn it. Well, if that was the only problem, lighting anything and burning it is a problem. But part of the problem with these products is the main active ingredient. They're great for pesticides, but they're not good for human beings. But human beings say, oh, it make me high. They get that hit. And they partake of it. So for me, my problem goes overall with this idea here of whether you heat it or you burn it or you extract it and then take it in. The thing is a thing that damages the nervous system. And anything that damages the nervous system, short term for some people, but for most people long term, it will be debilitating and damaging. What we're doing an experiment on our society. And what that experiment is, we're going to see the result of long-term use of THC and also nicotine isolated in high volume, what it does neurologically to our society. And this is basically what we're running, just high volume experiment on millions of people, because we're saying, oh, the smoking is bad. Okay, so we'll see what else is bad. And I believe what they're going to basically demonstrate over the next few years is the neurological damage that nicotine and THC will have on our society as they isolate it and give it to our society in high concentration. So mark that and note over the years we'll continue covering that, as I've covered that here, the issues with the neurological damage. And we see more and more of our society coming on with all kind of diseases, all kind of neurological diseases. And I believe it's from all these chemicals that we're using, not just with the THC and the marijuana. The THC and the nicotine in high dosage. We'll see others. You never see a person that use these things that neurologically they're stable. They're always damaged because we're talking about things that are neurotoxins. I'm going to read some quotations written over 100 years ago by Ellen G. White. And this is what she had said back in her time about tobacco. Tobacco using is a habit which frequently affects the nervous system in a more powerful manner than does the use of alcohol. So notice here, our focus is just straight for the issue. The issue is the central nervous system. And it says it's more dangerous than even alcohol. It binds the victim in a stronger band of slavery than does the intoxicating cup. The habit is more difficult to overcome. Body and mind are, in many cases, more thoroughly intoxicated with the use of tobacco than with spirituous liquor, for it is more subtle. It's more a subtle poison. And this is why I say, watch the neurological damage that will affect people as we move forward. Notice it's a slavery, and you would think that if taxes are at $4.30 a pack, you would think at that point somebody would say, I'm giving this thing up. You think if a person is a poor Native American or poor Alaskan Native, if a person is making less than $20,000 a year, if a person is suffering from all kind of financial problem, you think they'll say, but this thing is too expensive, I'm giving it up. But when you have an insidious poison that is addictive. It's not like that. Tobacco affects the brain and benumb the sensibilities, so to so that the mind cannot clearly discern spiritual things, especially those truths which would have a tendency to correct this filthy indulgence. Those who use tobacco in any form are not clear before God. In such a filthy practice, it is impossible for them to glorify God in their body and spirits, which are His. Tobacco weakens the brain, paralyzes its fine sensibilities. Its use excites a thirst for strong drink, and in very many cases lay the foundation for the liquor habit. So this is taken from the book Child Guidance, page 403, 404. Fascinating read here, because if you notice here, this idea here, it forms the foundation of liquor habit. People normally graduate. They say that certain things are not gateway drugs. This is an argument the tobacco and the marijuana people put out a lot. But you normally find people, they'll have liquor, tobacco, coffee, and they'll graduate. Give them time, because after a while they become so numb that they just graduate. Now, the important thing to note is that when a person starts using especially tobacco and alcohol, after a while it can smell it through the pores, but you can wash away to a certain degree the liquor, the tobacco. It's so insidious that it gets into the person's skin, and even when they walk, there's like a air of tobacco floating along with them. And marijuana is like this. Marijuana is similar. Sometimes if you talk to somebody that smoke marijuana and they drink coffee, is that their mouth smell like dog feces. It's an insidious poison. And so it's important to note that this thing here is damaging the whole system. See if we can get one more statement here in. And this is from CTBH. It says, wherever we go, we encounter tobacco devotee, enfeebling both mind and body by the darling indulgence. Have men a right to deprive their maker and the world of the service which is their due. Tobacco is a slow, insidious poison. Its effects are more difficult to cleanse from the system than those of liquor. So just imagine how that is. Today, nothing has changed. So, I see a person saying, I'm going to take the extract. I'm going to inhale the extract. They're still inhaling, or they're drinking, or they whatever, put in their body an insidious poison that is pure now and will poison the whole neurological system and damage them. And so they say, oh, look, I'm not dying of lung cancer. Yeah, but you're dead. You're walking dead. And you can look at a person, you're thinking they're deprived of life, they've deprived their maker, and they've deprived the society of service. So now, how many years later, the CDC has come out and say, here's the numbers. $170 billion it costs in direct medical costs to take care of people who smoke cigarette, and also $150-something billion in less productivity. And who knows how God calculate those costs. The cost is probably even higher to God, because it's everything they destroy. So it's important to note that God has called us to a life of sobriety, to a life of soberness. Lord says we are royal priesthood. We are called to temperance. We're called to be able to abstain from that which is bad, and tobacco, marijuana, coffees, tea, crack, cocaine, heroin, opiates, you name it. Everything is an insidious poison that destroys the nervous system, that causes our brain not to work. The Lord would have us to stay away from those things. And, the best thing for your lungs is fresh air. Go outside, inhale, and you say, oh, that was free from Jesus. And that's what you need to do. Just inhale that fresh air, and that's it. You don't need to inhale nothing else. And God will bless you. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee again for your goodness towards us. We thank you for your love. We thank you, dear Lord, for the guidance that you give us, that we might not live life drunk. We might not live life in a high, in a fog, in a daze, but we might live sober, clean lives, dear Lord, that we might give thee all the praise, glory, that we might be productive citizens. Bless us, dear Lord, as we go to work this day. Bless us as we do the things that you would have us to do, that we might be a blessing and a praise to thee and a honor to thee and a blessing to our family members and ourselves. Thank you again for your word. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.